I'm going to start by reading a couple of poems by each of them. The first two will be by Don Welch, who had an opportunity to read here either last month or the month before and wasn't able to make it. So if you missed Don's reading, here's a couple from him, a couple of short ones. The first one is called Funeral at Ainsley. I write of a cemetery, of the perpetual care of buffalo grass, of kingbirds and catbirds and cottonwoods, of wild roses around headstones with their high, thin stems and their tight tines and their blooms pursed in the morning. I write of old faces, of cotton hose and flowered dresses and mouths which have grown up on the weather. And I write of one woman who lies a last time in the long sun of August, uncramped by the wind which autumns each one of us, under catbirds and kingbirds and cottonwoods and the gray-green leaves of the buffalo grass. And this next one, thank you. This next one is called Nebraska. These two poems, by the way, are from the Nebraska Presents Anthology, an anthology of Nebraska poetry. Some of you probably have a copy, and if you haven't, they're still available through various bookstores and through the Backwaters Press, I think. Nebraska, going west when the sun is going down, following the highways like light cords. If Nebraska were the name of a Russian woman, they could love her. There would be a certain large-boned beauty about her, or she would be dressed in black and lace. Her waist would be small, and she would drag her long dress over a floor into a study lined with French books. She would be a pawn in huge novels of war. As it is, she is a woman of spare beauty. Turning away from him so the fine hollows of her back were toward the bed, she said, "Why do you do this to me? Why do you keep imagining me in other places and states? And why do you keep assuming our children are unhappy?" And I'm going to now read several poems, 3 short poems by Greg Kuzma, who's been gracious enough to attend this reading. I'm really happy that he came. They're from his book Good News, published in the 70s, but this is a reissued copy by Carnegie Mellon, published by Carnegie Mellon, called A Carnegie Mellon Classic Contemporary. Good News. Poems from Good News. Man in Snow is the first one I'm going to read. It has been snowing for hours. A man bent to look like a tree stands among the trees. He is almost covered with snow. He is saying, "Ah, I am almost covered." Around him, the trees look like men lost in a blizzard. They are saying, "A little more snow, and we will be indistinguishable from men."
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've never read that poem or heard it before. Thank you.
Really? I'm sorry.
I was like 20 years old, you know.
Yeah, well, you were probably 20 when you wrote these other two.
Better then than I am now.
No, that's not my suggestion.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Yeah, well, here's 2 more.
You brought it to life.
Well, you got summer and nightfall to get through now.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Summer. I am one of the citizens of this city. I have my small patch of grass, my sidewalk to protect my mailbox, stuck like an ear to the front porch, my backyard, where I lay down my pointless tools to run to the mailbox, to see what has found out, and my new pale refrigerator inside which the igloo of beer cans stands firm in a dead wind.
I've never heard that one either. I know about the beer cans.
And Nightfall. This is a very elegant little poem. It's dark where you are. Night falls. The trees are making it darker. Night. The rain is falling and darkening the air. An animal has come up the hill, keeping a black hold on the hill. Night. A bird has folded itself up into a black hand. Shadows are deep as your waist, going deeper. Night falls, but you are still moving, a gray arm in the dark. Thanks, Greg.
I don't remember that poem. Really? No, thank you.
Well,
You're bringing me back to life. Thank you very much.
oh, you're welcome.
Resuscitation.
Some of you who follow poetry and poets and the lives and the deaths of poets, you may know that one of the great poets of our time, Jim Harrison, died recently. A poet and a novelist. He's probably more known for his fiction than his poems. But anyway, I recently read his nearly posthumous book, Dead Man's Float, in which he wrote several poems inspired by Antonio Machado, the Spanish poet, and Lorca and Viejo, Peruvian, wasn't he? And lived in France for a long time. Anyway, I've got an epigraph by Jim Harrison from his poem, one of his poems. I think he has two poems about Machado in this collection. And this is about Machado's carrying his mother, at least as described in Harrison's poem, across the Pyrenees from Spain into southern France. The town they both ended up dying in, I probably won't pronounce it very well, but I'll try. It comes at the very end of the poem. This is called Machado Suffering by Old Man Prying. And the epigraph goes, he carried his mother across the border from Spain to France in a rainstorm. She died, and so did he a few days later. Machado was the poet who came closest to the paintings of de Chirico, where shadows do all the climbing out of their skins in the town's otherwise empty streets. I have a neighbor who's always ill at ease, a man in his 30s carrying a ghostly face. He's decidedly haunted by other specters, ex-wife, fatuous girlfriend, with his young son along for the ride, his even younger maple tree in the front yard, desperately reaching for companionship besides the touch of a weak breeze that I too have trouble accepting as God's surrogate hand. The notion I understand or even witness his misery any more than I know my openness to sadness is another failed belief. I should simply drive, as he drives, to the convenient mart and come back with nothing but the ordinary. Milk for the boy who needs mother. The religion he gets at his Catholic school perhaps does him no harm, yet I'd guess it takes no joy in the reality of infinite stars, which Machado lost track of carrying his mother to Couleur. This is a poem about going out for a beer. I won't be gone long. The likes of him don't stray past organ grinding, I heard the bartender grumble, and wondered who he meant and what he meant, though I had some idea. My self-pity, one definition of a monster's soul, lined up at the bar like all the rest of sorrow. Dear fellow drunks, I thought to say, I know you're leaning against a missing starlight, tired woman's shoulder, and a dream of a redemption has once crossed your minds. Maybe not in this beer and piss hole, then by chance through porch swing canticles, coming at you from dark songbirds you previously shot, after knocking your wife on the floor, and every night, no matter who lands the blow, the claim of innocence. I've got a couple of Blackbird poems here, neither one of which should remind anybody of Wallace Stevens.
Okay.
Okay. Blackbirds. Why starlings weren't welcome, I couldn't figure out, always chased away by young and old. kids younger than I, who ran at them as though some game were suddenly on but never finished. Old men slapped their hands together, which is also done to bring a dog home beside one's feet. A woman down the block shook the long skirt she constantly wore, forcing the birds out of her yard. It looked like bees or other insects had gotten under the dress against her legs. She stomped her shoes, stomped the pavement to her door as if using jackhammers. Blackbirds flew off but returned a dozen times before dark across the neighborhood like shadows building up throughout the long day. The cardinal was everyone's favorite, alone, a pair of them, providing something striking, a feathery fire among often stark houses. And the singing was a gift, my mother believed, attached as it was to spying the red bird on a single branch, from which breeze-tossed leaves sent a falsetto's voice through kitchen windows. Starlings, meanwhile, weren't ever absent. Name itself may be the reason they weren't loved. Small stars at their flanks, eventually the sky's only light. And this one is called Blackbirds in Early March. An assault by blackbirds, a defeater in the yard. Overkill of dark angels. Out of the near blue, they've come among snowflakes. Ruda. Near the end of the poem. This is a very short one. It's called All Souls. The earth goes to bed with one last starling flying past the window. I'm lucky I noticed this. Were you so lucky nights ago, the owl in the room with you, but off in a corner, staring out at a tree branch, once possessed? I think these things happen because here's the truth. What a huge night, what a solitary earth. If there's another reason, it doesn't matter to the stagnant breeze among the poor and Christ-ridden. And since this is National Poetry Month, I'm using all kinds of dedications to other poets and quotes by other poets. So here's another one. All in One Moment, with a line by Sid Corman. Life for us to be pleased with, over the transom, through the leaded glass window. It is amazing how much a window lets in or out. Even the darkest mirror, using only voices it has shattered, holds a thought that is sometimes brilliant. Don't take me seriously. My Australian grandmother was doggedly superstitious. She showed me a knife she'd painted blood red, which had the crows near her porch without a single complaint. I said at first, she insisted, fastening the knife to a pine wall for later, you can't sing like an angel if you haven't a disgusting parent. One more? Okay.
Get a fireball.
Well, this is, Donald Justice wasn't known as a fireballing poet, I don't think, but
Well, no.
anyway, the title is To Donald Justice, or for whoever has the light on. Oh, I'm sorry, whoever has a light on.
Yeah.
It's the light on in his poem. With no voice from heaven coming toward me through the night, even through the car's radio, these all-time hours, people lying vulnerably in their beds for denouncing the devil, the bayou vowels of the preacher forcing stars to tremble more than they wish. I slow enough. Window rolled down. I can hear a nighthawk scratching out a syllable possibly nobody's ever before imagined. And who's the lucky bastard who screams back at the feathery link between soul and eternity, gone to the dark? Nameless horizon, past the 4 storefront town, 4 businesses forever closed, and on the same side of the untraceable road. Thanks so much. Oh, you're working.
That was kind of a fireball.
Okay.
Any poem with a few extra words that we're not supposed to say around young people.
Great reading. Thank you very much.
That's enough of a fireball poem for this time of night. Thank you, Rich. I really appreciate it, and I'm also glad that he did the thing that we probably all should do when we get up to read our own poetry. Read 2 or 3 others people's poetry too, and share it. You'll set the fire for someone.
Yeah, Percy said it.
That's right. We should all do that.